I'm pleased to be back in front of you for my second affirmative. Let me first give credit to where credit is due. I simply did not make this chart. I don't have that talent or ability. Brother Robin Haley made that for me, and he certainly did an excellent job on that in just writing what Mr. Ross had written. Now, Mr. Ross might want to back up from it all that he wants to, as he has tried to do in this debate. We'll keep holding his feet to the fire with it. That's what he wrote. I didn't write it for him. Mr. Haley didn't write it for him. He wrote it himself. We'll get it. In fact, let's have his chart, if you will. Just use his chart concerning that. And notice the statement that he makes. He states, and I won't try to read the entire paragraph, defenses of instrumental music. Well, let's use his chart. It's a little bit easier to read. He writes, and go up to right about here. Never, at no time, under no dispensation, has instrumental music meant anything but good when used in accompaniment of the praising of God. And the fact is, it is purely an assumption that it was not used by disciples in the New Testament period, being commonly practiced in the Old Testament. The mere absence of commands in the New Testament regarding instrumental music is not in itself evidence that such a common practice was not a part of the praising of God. Now, he makes an assumption, or he says there is an assumption that is made that it was not used by disciples in the New Testament period. That's what the assumption that he's stating that people assume. Then he makes a statement that the mere absence of commands in the New Testament regarding instrumental music is not in itself evident. Now you can read that. I'll let you just read it for yourself, and you can come to an understanding on that. What did he write? Did he write that? Was that his statement, or was that something else? Let's have the questions that he asked me and my response. He gets up and argues quite a bit about this first question: where in the Bible is the record of Jesus and the apostles obeying the law and the use of instrumental music in worship? I wrote, it presumes there is a law that demands instrumental music in worship. What he has here is, my friends, not a valid question. It presumes something. It's kind of like the question, if I should ask David, have you quit beating your wife yet? That's the type of question that Mr. Ross asked here. He presumes something that he has to prove. There's a presumption there, and thus it's not a valid question. In this second statement, which of the Old Testament Psalms are excluded from Ephesians 5:19 and Colossians 3:16, I wrote none. And he made a play concerning my statements about it only being partially, or that the Old Testament laws or Psalms are only part of the Psalms. In an introduction to the critical study and knowledge of the Holy Scriptures written by Thomas Hartwell Horn, on page 238, he discusses this question concerning the Psalms and the book of Psalms. He says that they are a collection of the lyric, moral, historical, and elegant poetry of the Hebrews. It's just a collection of them. That collection is not limited just to the book of Psalms. There's others. This is a collection of them. And he states that thus some are simply odes. An ode is the dignified sort of song, narrative of the facts, either of public history or of private life, in a highly adorned and figurative style. That's what Mr. Horn says. But Mr. Ross says, oh no, the Psalms are just and only the Psalms of the Old Testament, and nothing more, nothing less. When he read number 3, if we today may not appropriately sing certain songs, are we also forbidden to read them? I put no. He's read the no. But here's a copy of an overhead of what I gave him. He'd never mentioned this. I wrote Romans 15 and verse 4 there. He didn't read it. He didn't mention what I wrote in my answer. He was trying to deceive you and cause you to have some prejudice against what I had stated. Mr. Ross, that's deceptive, and you know it. They are for our learning, and we're to use them as such. Let's get down to verse number 5. Is there any record that God ever disapproved of the use of instruments in worship of God at any time, past, present, or future? I said yes. How does he do it? In several different ways. Actually, number one, by not giving authority for them in the use of the New Testament period of time. My first entire speech was completely ignored by Mr. Ross. He never said a word about it. Did you notice that? He got up here and spent 20 minutes, actually over 20 minutes. And he never made any reference to anything I said. Why? Because he's going to do what he wants to. Just like he's going to bring in the instrument because he wants to. Where's the authority for it today? Just get the present tense. Look over here. Where's the authority for the playing of instrument of music? We have authority for singing. Where's the authority for the mechanical instruments of music? That's how God tells us, do not use it. That's how he shows us that they are disapproved of today, because he does not authorize them today. And anything that is not authorized is thus sinful. Now then, you want to talk about someone who wants to have it both ways. Put up Ross's answers to mine tonight. My first question, he says, I ask, is it sinful for members of the Church of Christ to quote sectarian writers on spiritual matters? Notice what he does. Yes, no, true, false. Sometimes. You want to have it both ways, Mr. Ross? I'll come back to number 2 in just a minute. Come back down to number 3. It is sinful for Christians to sing, not play, songs to God. Ephesians 5:19. What is the answer? True, false. Sometimes. We want to have it both ways. Let's jump on both sides of the fence. Jump back and forth whichever way I want it. That's what he wants. What's the old statement? I want to have my cake and eat it too. That's Mr. Ross. Sometimes. Let's notice number 6 on this next chart of tonight's. Since you say that the worship of God today must be authorized by the New Testament, and you have stated it is false that the New Testament does not authorize by direct statement, account of action, or implication, that's what he argued in his first speech. That does not. please list just how the New Testament authorizes.
10 minutes.
Does it say anything? Are you going to learn how the New Testament authorizes as you read 2 Timothy 3:16 and Isaiah 8:20? That's not going to tell you how the New Testament authorizes today. He wants to avoid it. He wants to say, yes, there's need for authority, but then there's no way to tell how the Bible authorizes. Notice number 5 on this. I, Bob L. Ross, continue to be governed by the authority of the law of Moses today. That's what I ask him. He writes, in the light of the whole Bible and the law. But notice his answer. True. There's the difference, really. He wants to be governed by the Old Testament law just as much as the New Testament law. He wants to join both of them and have both of them. He wants to be a Jew because that's who the law of Moses was given to. The law of Moses was never given to Gentiles. I'm a Gentile in that respect, and I imagine he is too. It was given to the Jews, never given to the rest of the world, and yet he wants to be under it today, as he puts it, in the light of the whole Bible and the law. That's what we're dealing with tonight. But now then, let's notice, go back to the first chart on that. We'll notice question number 2. It is impossible for a group of Christians, none of whom can play a mechanical instrument of music, to obey Ephesians 5:19. Notice how he answers it. False. That's false, he says. Notice it again. It's impossible for a group of Christians, none of whom can play a mechanical instrument of music, to obey Ephesians 5:19. The answer is false. Now, show last night's questions. Number 1. Ephesians 5:19 commands the use of mechanical instrumental music. And what does he answer? What does he answer? He says true. Now then, we come over to tonight, though, and while he says true, it commands the use of mechanical instruments of music yesterday. Today he says, oh, one doesn't have, or him put it up, one doesn't have to do it. Here he says false. Doesn't have to do it to obey God. And to obey that command of Ephesians 5:19. What do you have again? Jumping back and forth, one side to the other. He wants to have it both ways. Let me now deal with some of the things that he dealt with. Now have your chart RD number 6. And this, he continues to talk about singing and the command to sing. And he quotes Alan Hires in The Spiritual Sword of 790, page 3. And I want you to notice, he states in this, the command, there at the bottom, down here, the command to sing includes only what it states, singing. That's what we're arguing for tonight. That the New Testament has authorized singing. There it is, right over here. It tells us to sing. Where is the authority for us to play? It includes only what it states, singing. Now the question, does singing include mechanical instruments of music in worship? And I still do not understand why he wants to try and debate all of these individuals, G.C. Brewer, Flavel Nichols, Roy Deaver, Hugo McCord, and on and on and on. He mentions these individuals. Why does he want to? He wants to debate them. I thought you were debating Michael Hatcher, not those men. And I thought I was debating Bob Ross on the New Testament Scriptures. I guess I was wrong. Because he's sure not talking about the Scriptures, he's talking about what our brethren believe. And let me mention, all of these brethren agree with me. They come to the exact same conclusion, that singing is sinful in worship. Singing is what is authorized in worship to God today, and mechanical instruments and music is sinful today. He puts up the chart, Ephesians 5:19. Speaking to yourselves in psalms, hymns, speaking spiritual songs, singing and making melody. He says singing is the human sound, and making melody is the instrumental music. And he used salontes, which is a form of solo. The word solo, as defined by Thayer, for example, he says in the New Testament to sing a hymn. Green defines it in the New Testament to sing praises. Bagster in the New Testament to sing praises. We could go on and mention several others. It's universally accepted, basically. But he says, basically, all of these words don't change meaning. Put up my solo number 2. Here's an illustration that you'll all recognize very quickly if you're of any age, much at all. The word gay. I can remember back a few years ago, in my young age even, that if you talked about, well, someone over here is gay, what is it? Well, that's someone showing or characterized by exuberance or happy, excitement, merry, bright or lively, full of or given to social pleasures. That now, though, is basically done away. Go up a little bit. Universal Dictionary of the English Language was published in 1939. And it basically states these things filled with, expressing, inclined to joy, lively feeling, merry, lighthearted, cheerful, immoral, or in a bad sense, immoral or dissipated, conveying sense of gaiety and liveliness, suggesting conduct, conducing to this, hence bright, showy, or brilliant appearance. Now we come down. You called a person gay a few years ago. Why, that was a happy person, cheerful person. You call a person today a gay, and you're talking about this definition right here, a homosexual. We know that it's changed meanings. Go to my chart, solo number 1. There were different periods in the Greek language. Here are several that were given by E.A. Sophocles. And other scholars, for example, Liddell and Scott, vary slightly from Sophocles, both as to number and exact time of the periods, but they are all in substantial agreement on all essential matters and reach practically the same conclusion. Here's different periods of time. Now then, go to solo number 3. The word solo has a radical meaning, a basic meaning, and it means to touch. But the object that is to be touched or plucked is not inherent in the word. It has to be stated. And so, through different periods of time, there's different applied meanings. It had the meaning of to pluck the hair. Wonder, should we pluck the hair in worship to God? Turn over to Nehemiah 13, verse 25, and it talks about our plucking the hair. Is that what we're to do today in worship to God? We're to solo, we're to pluck the hair. It means to twang the bowstring, to twitch a carpenter's line, to touch the chords of a musical instrument, or to make mechanical instrument music, or to touch the chords of the human heart, to sing, celebrate with praises of God. And that's basically how they define it in the New Testament period of time. Is the instrument stated? Well, it has to be stated outside of the word solo. And then, in Ephesians 5:19, it says to solo in the heart. Thank you.